Well, good morning, everybody. And what a pleasure it is to welcome all of you to an event that's taking place outside the ropes, Change with Conversations, the mental state of a winner. Wouldn't we love to have an uncluttered mind, to how to deal with anxiety, as well as ensuring that the negative life experience don't define us. This is a space that is generating an awful lot of attention, a great deal of conversation, and conversation is what we're going to have today. As I say, this is the first time we come to Florida for the Aramco Team Series. It is an event owned by Gulf Saudi. It is supported by our title partner Aramco and presented by PIF. And now is an exceptional time to be a woman in golf. There is record prize money, 35 million euros available on the Ladies European Tour. That is a record for the tour, and it's really delivering meaningful change, life-changing opportunities for women. And women is the topic today because, wow, I am excited to introduce our panel. We have experts in the world of health and beauty and wellness, as well as sport. And please, will you put your hands together as we welcome our panel up to the stage. And first of all, please put your hands together for Shannon Vaughan, the founder and CEO of Persoma. Shannon, come and join us. We're delighted to have Sophie Walker. You might well have heard of her. You will have heard her voice. It's one of our commentators this week, a golf broadcaster and coach. Sophie, good morning. We are delighted to welcome the founder of My Turn TV and an author. There are some books here, and we're going to be receiving a few of those. You might be able to leave with one of them if you're fortunate enough. Please put your hands together as we welcome Lauren Hirsch-Williams. Good morning, Lauren. And finally, a professional growth and mindset coach. We're going to tap into her mind today as we hear from the wonderful Patricia Cimino. Well, ladies, this is a good panel. I'm excited to be having this conversation with you. And throughout the course of this morning, we really hope if you have any questions, please put your hands up if you feel passionate about something that we're talking about. We would love to hear from you and your own experiences as well. But Patricia, I feel we want to kick off with yourself as a mindset coach. I mean, goodness me, how do you switch on and switch off in this world today where there is so much happening? How do we tap in to the potential that we all have inside, but somehow and sometimes we're not quite sure how to unlock it?
Yeah, that's such a great question. First, it's really to just notice where your mind is going, where your thoughts are going, and how you can notice that. A lot of us don't notice what our thoughts are, but you can tap into how you're feeling. So if you're feeling fearful or doubtful, it's always coming from something that you're thinking and believing. So having that awareness to pay attention to what you're thinking and believing is the first step to actually then making a change towards something that is going to serve you, thinking thoughts that will serve you versus sabotage you.
Yeah, but that negative voice in our head, Patricia, I mean, I don't know about you, but I have a lot of negative voices going on in my head. How do we stop that negative thought? I don't think anybody here in this room, is happy and firing at 100% every day. But how do we actually go about making that change?
Well, I have a little acronym that I'd like to share with you, and it allows you to think differently. Okay. So the acronym is DETOX, and the D is to decode your thoughts, like become aware of what you're thinking in that moment. The E is to engage your breath, because if you can get out of the chaos of your mind and get into your body, you can calm your nervous system and you can then reach your higher level thinking. The O is to optimize gratitude, because whenever we're in a space of gratitude, you can't think two thoughts at the same time. If you're in a place of being grateful for whatever you have, you can't be in a place of lack. And the X is for exercise movement. Get your endorphins going. And so if you can use any one of those to get your head out of that space and to convert it into a place of focusing on where you want your mind to go to.
Yeah, where we want our mind to go to. You mentioned breath work, and I know breath work is something that athletes pay particular attention to, but not just athletes and sportswomen, but women in business, women in the home, women in the world. And how can we use our breath best so that we can control a situation where we do feel that we're spiraling out of control?
Yeah, so I do have a little exercise, and I'm happy to share it with you. Do you want me to do that?
Are we awake, audience? Are you ready to try a little bit of breath work? We've got a couple of thumbs up at the front. So, yes, good, excellent. We've got some willing audience members, and the panel are going to get involved in this as well.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so wherever you're sitting, just sit with your, lengthen your spine and just relax your shoulders. And plant both your feet on the ground. And gently close your eyes. Unglue your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Unclench your jaw. Relax all of the muscles in your face, especially that space between your brows. Now take your thumb and your forefinger and start to rub them together ever so slightly so you can feel all of the ridges in both of your fingers. Now take both of your palms and rub them together so you can feel all of the sensations in both of your hands. Now take your right palm and put it on your belly, your left palm over it. And notice the rise and fall of your belly with each inhale and each exhale. Now gently open your eyes. How do you feel? Do you feel a little calmer?
Yeah, I'm seeing, hands up if you're feeling a bit calmer, a bit more in control than when you're, okay, we've got an overriding consensus here.
Yeah, and so when you're in this space, you can now access your prefrontal cortex where all your higher level thinking takes place, and you can start to tap into solutions. You can tap into your creativity. It's a much calmer space, and it shifts you from that negative spiral into a more positive place.
Yeah, and positivity is what we need. Sophie, we certainly need positivity on the golf course. That's for sure. We've got 108 golfers taking to the fairways today. First time, as I say, in Florida. And it's a lonely place sometimes, the golf course, when things aren't going quite right. And it's your life, it's your job, you're there to earn money. And it can be a very difficult and challenging place to get out of when you're not playing well. You know, what have you learned as an English amateur champion to a LET professional and now talking about the game from your experience and drawing on the breath work that Patricia was talking about? What do the golfers do out there in order to manage their emotions?
Well, I think what you just did there is something that is maybe only coming into golf in the last couple of years, the awareness of how you feel on the golf course. It was more golf swings. What does my swing look like? And now we're thinking about what goes on in our brain. It's an individual sport. That's hard. There's nobody to lean on. It's all about yourself. And obviously you're out there for 5 hours and you can get in your own way. And I think in life, we can all learn that getting in our own way. And I thought what you said there about being aware of that. I used to have a helicopter effect or a TV effect, in fact. Like, imagine somebody's watching you play. What would they think of you, the way that you're acting? So you become aware of that. And I think it's also okay to know that there are some negative thoughts there and then how you react to them. So I used to, have the devil on our shoulder, like we all do. You're going to miss that putt. You're going to miss it. And it's not going to help at all. So you acknowledge that and you kind of try and put them to bed in some ways. So we practice mental thoughts just the way that we practice golf swings as well. And you said about being lonely out there. When things aren't going well in life, you isolate yourself. And you maybe don't speak to your coach as much as you should. You stop talking to your caddy. You come off the golf course. You don't go for dinner. You shut yourself off. And then a couple of weeks down the line and you're saying, I've got no friends. I've sacked my coach. Actually, it's your behavior that's doing that, that's making everybody else stay out of your way. And I think the best players that deal with it, somebody that we've just seen going through 18 now, Lydia Ko, you never know if she's playing well or bad. The way she comes off the golf course, she's always got a smile on her face. She goes out to dinner with her friends. She can really separate golf from life. And when golf is your life, it's your hobby, it's all you've ever want to do, and then you get that and it doesn't go to plan, it can be really hard. So the separation of yourself as a person and a golfer, be really aware of the players that say that in an interview, because they're the ones to look out for. They've realised it. Lynn Grant's great at that. Maya Stark's getting better. And we've seen it with Lexi Thompson. We love Lexi Thompson, don't we? And she's desperately trying to get out of her own way. And at least she's acknowledged it now. And I think unlocking that feeling will help her progress and hopefully win more tournaments. But golf's work. So you all work. You all know what it feels like when you're having a bad day and you take it home with you. And that's what we do in golf. It's just in there constantly, and it's how can we empty our mind?
Yeah, Shannon.
I wanted to add something to that. Somebody once told me a very interesting exercise that can help. And as I'm holding this microphone, it actually will work with it. They said most people, when they're thinking, you're so caught up in your own thoughts, as you're talking about on a golf course. And if you think about holding a flashlight, you know, people, when you're kids, you put a flashlight and it gives a kind of a scary look to your face, right? If you think about holding a flashlight and it's only pointed on yourself, that's all you're going to be able to see. But if you think that imaginary flashlight, you just point it elsewhere. So if you're in a meeting, you point it to the other people. If you're on a golf course, you maybe point it to the nature. Wherever you are, you point it to something else, and what it does is it takes the spotlight off of you and onto whatever else is around you. And it's just an interesting exercise to help pull out of your head.
It's very, Lauren, you make a great point, and Sophie, it's lovely to hear what you said. We talked about Lexi Thompson. We talk about her a lot on television. She's the world number 7, she's a major champion, won multiple times on the LPGA. We're surprised that she hasn't won more. And she does say, golf is who I am, it's not what I do. Golf is what I do, it's not who I am. She doesn't want to be defined by golf, but it's very easy to say those words. We know words are powerful, but genuinely believing them is a whole different matter. We've talked about breath work, but Shannon, if I can bring you in, I know we touched earlier on meditation, because you think that meditation is crucial and you've done a lot of it in your time. You set up a beautiful beauty company called Persona. We're going to find out more about that. But the benefits of meditation and visualization, I know topics, ladies, that you're very well versed in. But Shannon, your thoughts on meditation and how to control what's going on in our mind so we are more in control and not feel that we're swimming against the tide.
Yeah, I had no background or exposure to kind of mind-body connection until I had a physical challenge and some health issues. And once I treated the health issues, I realized that, you know, there was still some anxiety and I had a case of PTSD. And, you know, I realized that there was certainly a connection. And so I spent about 3 months in India in a very rural place, climbing into a cave, not knowing where I was going, and learning a very basic form of meditation and really having no idea what I was doing. And with no expectation, which was probably better. And I like to say when I came out of that cave, I reached some state of enlightenment, which sounds ridiculous, but it's true. Yeah. But meditation for me was, I had a severe case of anxiety, and it really is something that it's not something you try and improve on, it's just something that you do. And I really think it's the lowest hanging fruit of mental health, because you don't need anything to do it. You don't need a teacher, you don't need a special place, you just need to allocate the time. And so if you're allocating the time, it becomes a habit. And I always say when I go into my office in the morning, like, you don't want the unmeditated version of me. And so you just have a kind of a different approach if you're able to set aside those 10 minutes in the morning and evening. And I think that we all start really good habits, usually on January 1st. And then by January 5th, we're like, it's out the door. So I think there's also an element of being kind to yourself. You say, I'm going to do something for self-improvement and self-care. and also being generous with yourself and saying, if that kind of falls apart, I'm going to reset. And I had a teacher very early on teach me that. I had lost this beautiful 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening because I had a baby. And all of a sudden I had no life. And I had a child I was feeding, and I lost my meditation practice and felt really like I was losing my mind. And I went to an ashram. I took my child with me, and this teacher says to me, she says, well, you're feeding your child 6 to 8 times a day. And hormonally, there is something that happens after you feed your child where the body is very, very calm. And she said, just sit there and you're going to get your 5 minutes back and multiply by 6 to 8, and you're going to have your 40 minutes again. And so I thought it was such a great lesson that she taught me, that you have to pivot. And so if something happens to you where you're not able to have those kind of well-formed habits, there's always a way to pivot and regenerate that.
Yeah, and finding that time to meditate. Hands up if anybody meditates. Okay, we've got a few. And has it helped? Has it changed your life? Yeah, we're getting definitely some positive affirmations. It's an enormous part, isn't it, Patricia?
Yeah, and one thing to note is if you're not a meditator, but you're interested in it, but you're like, when I first started, I thought there's no way I could sit there for 20 minutes. So I did 1 minute a day, every day for a month. And then the next month I added 1 more minute. So at the end of the year, it was 12 minutes. And at the end of 2 years, it was 24. So doing it only 1 minute a day for 30 days, and then 2 minutes a day for 30 days, and adding on, it created that habit that Shannon was talking about.
Okay, I think everybody in here can spare 1 minute a day. Now, I know we're all busy, but certainly that's a great tip. That's excellent. There's so much I want to ask all of you, which is fascinating. We're talking about meditation, also visualization. And Lauren, tell us a little bit about yourself, because you were a former Fortune 500 executive. You headed up advertising for Pepsi, and then illness struck, and life changed. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, I would say life almost ended.
Closer.
Life almost ended. It didn't just change. Yeah. I actually went for over 15 years being misdiagnosed, and nobody could figure out what was wrong because I had severe vertigo and I would fall down and be paralyzed. And so I went from being a very successful executive, fiercely independent. Mm-hmm. I once even traveled around the world by myself. I got an around the world ticket and just went. Mm-hmm. To crawling on the floor to get from room to room. And, you know, people ask, how did I come out of it? And I'm still working on that. So I'm a lot better now, but, you know, it's interesting. I think we go through life and we're running and running and running and running. And when we fall, because we all do, it's what you do when you fall and what choice you make and what decisions you make. And a lot of times when you're on the ground, literally or figuratively, you think this is it. I can't do it anymore. You become depressed, you become very lonely, you become very anxious. And it's in that moment that you have to take that first step. Just like Patricia said, meditate for a minute. So you just take one simple step, and that's what I did. And from being on the ground, I went to my knees, and I eventually stood up again and eventually walked. Now, I'm not running yet, but I'm getting there. So,
well, you've done brilliantly, and we're so grateful to have you here today. And experiencing that low and then finding a way to come out of it has offered this opportunity for you to set up a TV production company. Yeah. Tell us about that.
So I got to a point where I was at almost the height of my career, and everything kind of came tumbling down. And as I was coming out again, I thought, well, you know, it's my turn now, you know? And as I started talking to more and more women, so many women understand that, you know, it's my turn, it's my turn. And so my partner Robert and I, we work in the media world, and we decided, you know, let's get going with something for female empowerment, and let's let it be about my turn. So how do we create a roster of programming about women that have succeeded, things that women simply want to do, things that encourage, things that help them build their confidence so that they can claim the decisions that they want to make. And so that's what My Turn is all about.
great.
So,
How,
yeah, My
how do
Turn
we
TV,
watch?
yeah.
How do we watch My Turn?
Well, My Turn TV, okay, like a plug.com, myturntv.com. You can go there and you'll find out shows that are going to be coming out later in the year and next year, and just learn how to get involved or share your ideas as well.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Wow. We look forward to that. And we will turn to My Turn TV. Sophie, we want to pick up, obviously, we are here. There's a great golf tournament unfolding. We're going to be in the commentary box a little bit later on. But when we talk about what women go through, how we just switch it on. These players will play 20, 25 events a year. Sometimes you can just rock up to the golf course and go, I'm just not feeling it today. Whether you're on the golf course, whether you're in the workplace, whether you're out in the world, wherever you are, how do we show up? And what have you learned from your time playing golf and commentating on it and spending time with these professionals that you can share with us if we're also feeling that I'm just not up for it today? How do I switch it back on again?
I find that routines seriously help, be it if you're nervous or you're needing to prepare for your round. You'll watch these players on the driving range and you can almost to the minute judge their warm-up, be it they start in the gym, move to the putting green, go on to the driving range, back to the chipping green, walk to the tee. It's an hour for most of them. So that routine certainly helps. I think it is hard in golf. There's nobody to look left and right and say, I'm not feeling it today. Can you carry me? So you know that from a very young age that it is all on you, which is why the pressure can get quite high sometimes. You have to acknowledge that you might not be feeling it for whatever reason, physically, jet lag. I think it's good to talk to your caddy and maybe say to your caddy, I've had a rough night's sleep. I'm not quite feeling it. You might have to G me up. I always like the player-caddy interaction because they're on your team. They need you to do well. So if you can just keep the communication going with that caddy, they can certainly help you. But I think you're born as a golfer in the sense that you've been playing it since you're 3 or 4 years old and you are just used to having to turn it on and needing to show up on Thursday. I think if you look at players that might not be performing as well, they're working really, really hard Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. If you see a player on the driving range at 5 p.m. on a Wednesday, they have not got it on a Thursday, or in this case, on the Friday. So you need to conserve your energy earlier in the week, and that's something that I wish I'd have learned. You turn up to this new golf course, you might play 36 holes in boiling weather. I'm jet lagged with the 5 hours, and I'm up really early, and by the time it comes to the day that you actually need to show up, you're tired. So the preparation is key, but also the rest, because you need to be able, in this case, to go on Friday and keep going and going and going until Sunday. Because if you're in those final few groups, physically and mentally, it's going to be taking it out of you. And I've got the impression as players that we don't want to leave anything out there. If Kate's practicing more than me, I feel bad. It makes me feel really bad. I need to get out there and practice. And it's actually having that discipline to say, no, this is my routine. That's Kate's routine. I know what works for me. And that's something that is hard to accept because we all look around and judge each other, don't we? And the golfers that don't are the ones that are going to be out there on Sunday competing for this event.
Yeah, it's such a good point, isn't it? We get in our own way, surrounding ourselves with good people. You mentioned a caddy there, Sophie, which golfers have, but Patricia, it's so important to have that support, isn't it? And to have that network and friendship.
Completely. You are the product of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So look around you. Are they supporting you? Are they encouraging you? Are they inspiring you? Or are they doing the opposite? It makes a big impact on you. But you brought up a really good point about really paying attention to when you're not feeling it. And the key is not to sabotage yourself when you're not feeling it. Give yourself compassion that it's okay for me to take a little downtime today. When you add the sabotage on top of taking a day that you're not feeling it, you're just double layering a negative on top of another negative, right? So being able to key into what you're thinking and give yourself compassion in that moment to take it easy on yourself makes a huge difference. Goes back to what you're thinking.
Yeah.
So if I can my whole company is built on the premise of rest and recovery. So we make a recovery product for athletes or for just sore body or just you need to sleep. And I think we live in a society that's kind of opposed to the idea of rest, and more focused on performance. And so that applies to sports and also applies to most people in life. And I think there's a huge difference between rest and sleeping, in that if you're intuitively understanding that this term you use, not feeling it, and the body is asking for rest, I think there's many different ways. And one of our cult following product was called Digital Detox. And I started this product right in the beginning of when social media started. And we had this conversation in my company, like, well, we can't have social media because we are encouraging people to digital detox. And then we realized, well, no one will know about us if we don't have social media. So we had limited social media. But digital detox it's a real thing. It is a constant overload of stimulation and interaction with others. And it does not provide a way for you to actually rest. And so I think that the concept of rest is really a very personal, intimate time period that someone should allow themselves to actually rest. And so finding habits and methods in which you do that, quiet rooms, meditation, laying down. I mean, after yoga, there's always a rest period. After everything, I mean, if you're an athlete, you know that rest and recovery is super important. It's the body's ability to rebuild and to perform the next day. So I think that acknowledging rest as part of your performance is just kind of a way to look at your sport and also to look at the way you're living your day.
And I was going to say, on top of that, you think about rest for your body, but also permitting yourself to just feel your emotions. If you want to take a day, if you're really down and depressed or frustrated over being exhausted or a failure or anything else, allow yourself that time. Have yourself your little pity party, but then you have to get on. Then you move on with it. You have to make that choice and that decision. And I think we were talking the other day about Tiger Woods. You said he draws a line as he's going along. Do you want to share that story? Because it was very interesting.
Oh, no, Tiger Woods, he'd get mad, make a double bogey, but then he would set himself a line 10 feet in front of him. And then after 10 paces, he knew he had to drop those negative thoughts and go on to the next hole. Lots of athletes do it in different ways, but for him it was this red line he had to cross. And we all have different ways of coping, isn't it? It's what works for you. How do you get out of that funk?
Yeah, I think that everybody has their own formula. So you can listen to everything that we say and what we have done, but that may work for you and it may not. But if you have an awareness that every person has a formula for how they can get through these stages, how they can come out eventually to win, whatever it is they're trying to do, you find your formula. And if something doesn't work, you just try something else. And you keep going until you find that thing that works for you.
Yeah, sure. Magic's on the other side of fear, isn't it? For those of you that join us today, what techniques do you use? Is put your hand, visualization? Meditation we saw. Is there breath work that you use? Any techniques that you employ yourself? Any tools, any tricks that when you're feeling a little bit low or you're feeling a bit down or is this all a bit overwhelming? What can I do to move on, to get out of this? I'm going to leave this with you because we're going to ask the panel a few more questions, but we'd love to hear from you and what you found in your own experience to navigate your way out of a tough time. But tell us about your products at Piassoma, because we were talking about Epsom bath salts. So Sophie can relate to that. A hard day at the golf course, Dad would say, have a bath, put the Epsom bath salts in, you'll feel better. They draw the toxins out. Piassoma is slightly more than that, isn't it, Shannon?
Well, we have a protocol on the back of our packaging that is about your self-care ritual, and it's 5 steps. And we tell everyone the first step is to disconnect from technology, and then we have these steps of taking a bath, and at the end, it's resting for 20 minutes and sweating.
But are some people sweating because they haven't checked their phone for 20 minutes?
Maybe.
This is the problem. When we look at our screen time and you go, oh no.
Maybe.
What was I thinking? And without even realizing, you're on your phone checking your screen time when you're supposed to be having a digital detox.
So what we did is we created a Spotify playlist for those people that are tethered. And so we have a Spotify playlist that has basically a series of calming meditative programs, or I personally, when I'm bathing, and I take a bath about at least 300 days of the year, and I think it's great for the skin and all sorts of other reasons, but also children bathe. It's a great habit to have in the evening in hot or cold weather. And we started off with a single serve detox bath, which was like a 30-minute ritual, and it had clay, and now we are spread across the country in Walmart and Target, and we basically are competing with the Epsom salt market. And but it's really, if you can get yourself, we call the bathroom the sanctuary space, because I find it's kind of the only space in a home, in particular with being a mother, that you can kind of close the door and have your own time. And that usually occurs in the evening after everyone's needs are taken care of. And so that's really the purpose of Pure Soma, which is to take time for self and practice self-care in the form of bathing. And this is not a new treatment of care. People have been bathing for centuries, and they've been bathing in sulfur and salt water and high quality minerals for centuries. And it's really, we like to talk about how you develop in the womb in water, and how there is a comfort level to the human being when they're floating. And if you ever swim in the ocean and there's high salinity and you are able to float, there's something that really is calming to the body. So there is, there's scientific evidence behind soaking in hot water above 106 degrees in a certain level of salinity that drops the blood pressure and causes the body to start to calm down, and you have a mental state of clarity. And so we like to encourage things like cleansing the mind and detoxing from ingredients outside, and then laying down and sweating. And so we find that it's a very accessible routine for people, because almost everybody has a bath at home.
Yeah, well, not this week, but I'm going to hope so when I get back home next week. You have some of your products, don't you, in some goodie bags. So who has baths? Who likes a nice soak in the tub? Okay, good. Well, you've got some wonderful products to try the next time you do soak, and you can detox, put that Spotify playlist on. Keep the phone out of the bathroom, because that's the biggest challenge, isn't it? Lauren, 2023 is very different. 2007, the iPhone came out. Now we can't live without it. It's certainly not a phone. It's a personal computer that we take with us everywhere. And certainly for young athletes who are out there, as soon as they come off the golf course, we see it, Sophie, they go to their phone and they check their social media. And it's very easy to be influenced. A negative comment about you on Instagram, something that you didn't like reading. It's a beautiful time to be playing golf right now, as we talked about, with record prize money, the opportunities, the chance to come here and play in Florida. But it comes at a cost, doesn't it? Because the world spotlight is upon us.
Yeah, I think that this is also part of why we wanted to do My Turn, and why that was so important to me, is because you have to, if everybody is digitally addicted, you want to be able to send out messages that are going to help them. And so you have to go where people are to help people understand and feel the community, feel the love and the acceptance, and to be able to give themselves grace and allow themselves to feel what they feel and go through these things, wherever they are, on a golf course or anywhere,
Yeah, for sure. Sophie, what advice do you have for the young players? We've got a few very young players teeing it up this week, in your experience. And if you could go back and do it all again, is there anything you would do differently from a psychological approach to the game, and certainly where we are with technology?
Well, with technology, I'm really thankful that I didn't have 5G roaming wherever I was. So, we could go on the golf course and not be on our mobile phone. And I've actually just started working with an app. It's called Golf Guru. And one of the things it suggested to me is to not use my phone on the golf course when I'm playing golf or out socializing in a golfing aspect, because you're not present. And in golf, you need to be really present and not distracted. So for these 5 hours, obviously the players, they can't have their technology on them. And I think that's a blessing, and it really helps. It's just an added distraction. And, you know, with a golfer, you plan when you work. It's all down to you. You tell your caddy, right, I'll see you there tomorrow at this time, and they turn up. Once again, if we're in a team environment or we were employed by somebody else, we would have a 9 to 5 job. If you were a football team, it would be breakfast at 9, training at 10:30, go to sleep at 2:00 in the afternoon. We have the power to say when we work and when we don't. So the distraction is really easy because we're our own boss. And that would be my biggest advice to people, is to plan, to get the plans right, to have people that would book your flight. Lynn Grant is just coming down here now on the green. Her dad books all her flights, all her hotel rooms, everything like that. She just turns up, and she's like, all I want to do is just turn up and play golf. That's, if you have that capacity to get somebody to do that for you, I think that's a blessing. And these players right now, they're the ones that have got to learn to live with social media. We need it. That's the way that the world's going in order for them to claim sponsorship. But I would say set a calendar almost, or a strategy for the week, and say, right, I'm here, I'm working on get my golf at this point, or this is my time to be on social media, because it is taxing. You know what it's like. You go to bed, say you're up early for work in the morning, you snuggle in bed at 10 o'clock, and then the next thing you know, it's 11:15, and you've spent all that time going through Instagram.
I know. Yeah, we're all guilty of it.
We are.
And sleeping with the phone next to us. We need to buy an alarm clock, not be rigid with our mobile phones that have crept into the bedroom. And that's not very good for our health at all, is it, Shannon?
So that's probably not going to happen. We went through this whole thing where we wanted to sell with the bath products and the ritual an old, alarm clock, and no one bought it. And so I do think that some of the things where your phone will turn off in a certain time in the evening, it's incredible. I mean, if you just do it for 1 week and you say, I'm not going to look at a screen 30 minutes before I sleep, and I'm going to read a book, 20 pages, you will realize that you sleep better. It's an immediate effect. And I think it's unrealistic to the disconnecting conversation is hard to have. It's difficult. But I think if you can just do that 20 minutes and put it on the side.
Yeah. And Lauren, we know a great book as well that they could read this week. So you have your book that's with us. So have we got a copy of it? We've got a copy over there. Henry can show us a copy, and I'm sure that Lauren's going to be able to pass out a few. But we would love to hear from you. Are there any questions that you have, having heard what these women have talked about, that you would like to ask our panel, from the world of beauty, from sport, from business, and from mindset as well? If you do, please put your hands up and ask any questions that you have. While Shreena's going to go round and see if anybody's curious to ask any more, I'd like to ask you guys, best advice you have. Okay, so we've talked about breath work. What else is there? We talked about meditation. What else can you add to get our audience thinking, if they want to get the most and tap into their mind and unlock the power within?
I think drinking a lot of water, just low-hanging fruit again, hydration, and positive people. Spending time with positive people and being able to understand, like, it doesn't have to be harsh, like a disconnect from someone or in an aggressive way. It just is like, changing your surroundings and surrounding yourself with positive people, I think is really important. I think it's a very, very important thing to do for yourself, is just kind of look around. I think Patricia said, if you look at the 5 people that are around you, I think that's an immediate that anyone can do.
Oh, yep. Go on, Shreena. Let's get in. Hello.
Hello. So I just wanted to ask, do you think you spoke about meditation, if kind of speaking positive affirmations going into that whole idea of visualization is beneficial, I mean, as an athlete or even in your everyday life, and like how good of a strategy really is that?
Great question.
Absolutely. Visualization is huge. When you can take the time to just mentally think, our brain thinks in pictures. first of all. So when you can start to think and visualize and see a vision of what you want, and I have to admit, when I was doing my little acronym detox, I forgot the T. And the T is to train your brain to focus on what you want, not on what you don't want, right? Big distinction between the two. So when you can start to visualize something, you play it out like a movie screen in your head, you will naturally start to take action in that direction. That's why it's so important. And a lot of you who have coaches who probably practice that with you, imagine yourself standing at the tee, hitting the ball, going over the green, getting into the hole, like seeing that ahead of time, you're planting that seed of intention, and then you start to naturally take action towards it.
So I love this question. Also, I love that there's a outfit coordination all over here. This just is so nice to look at. Yes, you guys, ladies look great. The word manifestation, a lot of people, they're like, "Ooh, that's woo-woo," and it doesn't work, and it's kind of a funny thing, and but it's real, and I think that writing things down and drawing them if needed, and actually not just visualizing it, but the key thing I heard from a speaker one time is to actually feel it,
Embody it.
Yes, I had a bicycle injury on Sunday, and I just kept telling myself from before I got on the plane, I am recovering, I am well, I am healthy, I am better. And immediately I just felt better and was able to kind of move through the steps of surgery and whatever, and just moved through that versus, focusing on the opposite of that. And so I think that the visualization without adding the actual feeling of how you want to feel, and I would imagine in a competitive sport, in a professional sport, if you are feeling how you would feel if you actually accomplished that, I think that's a more direct route to get there is through your feelings.
It's a great point. Jack Nicklaus never played a golf course that he hadn't played in his head. And he would sit down before he took on any golf course and go, right, on the first tour, so I'm going to hit my drive, I'm going to hit my approach, how I'm going to putt. It doesn't work for me, but it did work for the greatest of them all. So visualization is incredibly important, isn't it, Sophie?
Look, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
That's what I say. I used to have, voice notes in your phone. I would do voice notes. You're a really good putter. You never miss from 3 feet. And it sounds really corny, and I can't believe I'm actually telling you all this.
But we're going to use that as well. That's really handy now we've got that.
But like putting, chipping, whatever maybe be your weakness, if you're saying it to yourself, it helps a little bit more. So just stick that in your voice notes, pick something out like that. And then there's a great story about the most recent women's major champion, Lilia Vu. So she was going to quit golf, said to her mum, I just don't want to do it. I'm going to go to law school. And her mum said, come on, keep going. And she wrote in her diary at the beginning of the year, you were saying January the 1st, she writes in her diary what she wants to accomplish that year. And she's on the tour, one below the LPGA. And she said, I want to win 3 times. I want to get my LPGA tour card. And she wrote them all down. And for that first couple of months, she might have looked at them, and then it got put to one side. At the end of the year, she won 3. She got her LPGA tour card. And this year, she won a major championship just 2 years later. She wrote it down. You've got to see it. And I think the affirmations are great. You have to be your biggest cheerleader. And that's the one thing that you said about learning. That's what I wish I'd have learned. When you play with somebody, you go, great shot. Or when they're over a 3-footer, you go, come on, make it. You're not maybe saying that to yourself. So you need to be your own cheerleader and speak to yourself the way you would speak to others on the golf course.
And that's so important, isn't it? What Sophie says, Lauren, writing it down, journaling. We all think these things. We go, oh, that was so interesting. I must remember that. But actually, take a pen and a piece of paper out, have your own mantra, remember what it is, and get it down.
And it's interesting because every year for about the last 5 years, I will take a piece of paper on January 1st, and I'll draw a big grid, and I'll just fill it out. And every box, I put something that I want to achieve that year, but in every aspect of life, whether it's health, whether it's business, whether it's relationships, whether it's family, community, charity, anything. And then I fold it up and I actually put it away, but I know that it's in my head, and I spent that time putting it into my head, and then I go back and I look at the end of the year, and maybe I didn't get every single thing because I may have 40 things on there, but I'm astounded at how many things I actually did accomplish just by putting it together. But I have one question, I think maybe for Patricia. I'm not in the audience, but I feel like I want to ask a question. And this is about talking about the difference between intention and expectation. Because I think a lot of us expect certain things of ourselves. And I wanted just to kind of throw this back to you about the difference of setting an intention and how that's slightly different.
Yeah, so setting an intention is really being proactive with what it is that you want to accomplish and doing it with positive emotions, right? Versus setting an expectation and then being disappointed with it if you don't hit it, and then you spiral into that negativity. But I want to add on to this whole thing about writing stuff down and give you something to take it one step further, and that is, if you were to write down a goal, but write it down as if it's already happened and get very detailed about it. And when you get very detailed about it, it goes along with what Shannon was saying, you start to embody it, you start to feel it. See it as if it's already happened and act from that place. It'll speed it up for you as well.
Oh, I like that. That's excellent. Shrina, we got another question from the audience.
Not so much a question, but a comment. I'm Pamela McCoy here with Women of Color Golf and Girls on the Green Tee. And I too have a company, B5 Reaffirm, we focus solely on the self-esteem of females. And when you're talking about a mantra, the mantra for B5 is that I am a B5. And what is a B5? I'm a bona fide boss with brains, beauty, and a believer in me. And the operative word is that you believe in yourself. There's so much power in positive self-talk.
I like that mantra. Can you say it one more time? Say it a bit louder, your mantra.
That I'm a bona fide boss with brains, beauty, and a believer in me. 5 B's.
Okay. Damn, that's much better than my mantra. I mean, God, I need to get to work. That has got balls on it, hasn't it? Wow. Okay, mantras are so important as well. And there's one last question from here. Yes.
Quick question. I'm a big mental health advocate on social media, and a lot of times I've had people write to me, we talk so much about writing with intention, seeing your goal and clarity. But as we know, a big portion of the youth is really lost, and that's why they're like facing mental health crisis. Like they just feel like we see everything on social media, and like, how does everyone know exactly what they want to do? So my question to you guys is actually a question that a follower had asked me, is like, how do you find that vision? Like if you're lost, like how do you find in what direction you would like to go? Because I think that's the problem. I feel that a lot of people don't have like clarity with exactly what they would like to do with their life.
I've been there many, 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 many times and literally on the floor, as I said before. And I think that, everyone has their own formula. Everyone has their own option. I think the most important thing from my perspective is not to look too far away, not too far out into the future, although that's always important, but just look at the first step. And when you think, all I need to do is take a small step, now you can ask yourself, what are the options? What potential steps could I take? And then you look at those and see if they feel right to you. Trust your gut, trust your instinct. Does that feel right? Does that feel like something that I want to do? And you can try something, and if it doesn't work, you just go back and try something else. But give yourself the permission to try, and to try little things at a time. It's all about putting one step in front of the other, really.
So I can just add to that. I think that I always am quite envious of people who knew exactly what they wanted to do early on. Like, I want to be a professional athlete, or I want to be a lawyer. They knew exactly what they wanted to do, and they went to that trajectory early on. I didn't have that experience. I had many different things that I did. I didn't go to college until I was 30, and I had a philosophy degree, which qualifies you to think and not really, it prepares you for nothing, and it prepares you for everything. But there were things that happened to me that were not comfortable. They were very uncomfortable. And from that, I was able to say, I want to work with others to help them in their healing journeys and build a company around that. But I think that just acknowledging that don't know what you want to do is the first step. I think that's a really important step, and just keep moving forward, like Lauren was saying. But I think it's it's a very rare gift if someone knows exactly what it is they want to do. It's very uncommon. So I think that's the first thing to understand, is that most people don't know. And so that journey, in remembering that, like, it's the journey to do that. That is the goal. Like, that journey is the goal. It's not that there's just an end point where you're like, okay, I'm here, I've arrived. Now I know exactly what it is that I'm doing. But that process to getting there is what's so enjoyable.
Yeah, and I want to add on to that, because following the feel good is so important. You know, a lot of times we're conditioned by what our parents are asking us to do or to consider, or maybe we see someone that we know, a peer that is excelling in it, and we think, oh, we want to go for that. We're not really paying attention to, but does that light me up? Does that light me up? Because that's what's going to sustain you. If you're doing something because you think it's going to make a lot of money or you're going to get a lot of recognition, but you're not doing it because it lights you up, you're going to fry out. You're going to burn out quickly. So it's super important to go into yourself and really know what feels good to you, what feels good and what feels not so good. Difference between not so good and uncomfortable. Those are two different things.
So much great advice here, and unfortunately, our time is up. We are very excited, though, to have some goodies that we are able to pass out, and thank you indeed to our panel. And thank you very much, Shannon. I believe some Pia Soma goodie bags are there. We also have some products from Lexi, her skincare range, Lexi Thompson, in the bright pink packaging. So that is also here as well. But can you please join me in thanking our tremendous panel, to Shannon, to Sophie, to Lauren and Patricia, for your insights, for your expertise, your wisdom and your knowledge. I think we've learned a lot. Small steps, 1 minute of meditation. Can we all try to do that at least? Develop a mantra, meditate, visualize, and believe that great days are ahead, because they are. It's Friday. We are at a beautiful golf course. The first round is underway. We're going to be hearing Sophie, and myself will be in the commentary box later. We're excited to cover the golf. There's going to be some great play out on the fairways, but we hope that you enjoyed the rest of the day. Thank you for joining us, and enjoy the Aramco Team Series here in Florida, presented by PIF. Thank you.